times when I've just felt like this river has wanted to end me. We're hoping to meet remote and potentially hostile tribes. They were quite literally going to kill us. To celebrate the fact that Expedition is now showing both on BBC Two on a Sunday evening and on Netflix, oh yes, this is The Day I Nearly Died, Whitewater edition. And before I get started, can I get a bit of love for the fact that I'm recording this with my phone stuck in my Expedition boot? I mean, that's pretty on brand, right? I have been paddling since I was knee-high, but I have nearly died so many times in a kayak that some people might say I should take up a new hobby. For my first, on expedition in Gabon with a team of highly experienced jungle enthusiasts, we were heading down a river that had never been paddled before in the magnificently named Mukalabadudu National Park. It all started fantastically, paddling down this river that was so wild, surrounded by pristine forest, filled with all kinds of amazing animals. What we were looking for was to find a brand new, undescribed population of chimpanzees living there in that national park. The expedition was really hardcore. So not long after we started, we came to a canyon that we absolutely could not paddle through in our inflatable kayaks. So we had to carry them around the river. And carrying the boats themselves wasn't too much of a problem. They're inflatable, we let them down. But we had about a ton of gear, and it was nearly 5 kilometres to carry. And 5 kilometres in the jungle on very, very steep-sided forest is hard won. Throughout the entire thing, we were walking in the footsteps of jungle elephants, and they have got to be one of the most potentially dangerous animals in the world. Found an elephant trail, which is good because it means that the trail is going to be much clearer and hopefully flatter. But it's bad because it's elephants. When we put back in, everything was just as cool as it had always been. We came into this incredible gorge that we described as being the Gorge of the Butterflies. I don't speak much French, but I know enough to know that I'm going to call this Le Gorge des Papillons, Butterfly Canyon. It was just filled with these glorious creatures. It makes it feel even more like paradise. And my local guide, Ghislaine, I can remember him turning around and speaking to my primatologist paddling partner and saying, "We're the first people ever here."
We're the first. I'm sure we're the first.
The look on her face was gold dust. The look on her face a little while later was something else entirely. As we came to the end of the section of river we were running for the first time, we became aware that there was a big rapid ahead of us. Camera operator Graham and kayak safety Tom McClay, absolute genius expedition leader, they went down first. And we got back a radio message saying, "We're not going to sugarcoat this, Steve. This is going to be hell." Now, things got worse because not only were we paddling very heavily laden canoes, but half the team, very experienced in the jungle, but no experience in whitewater. I had in the front Alessandra Mascaro, who is a highly experienced primatologist, but no experience whatsoever of whitewater. We headed into what was probably on the verge of being a Class 5 whitewater rapid with no idea what we're going to hit, boat fully loaded, inflatable canoe and one paddler. And the results were kind of inevitable. Looking back from the camera on the front of the boat, the look on her face says it all. The utter, pure, blind, white terror as we hit that first rapid and flipped, as did every other boat. Let's forget for the moment that those rivers are packed full of Nile crocodiles, plus 2 other species of crocs as well, and hippos, lots and lots of hippos. Forget that. We were all dragged down the bottom of this river with insufficient flotation and insufficient experience, frankly. We came out of that first rapid, we got back onto the boat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Very scary.
So we have no paddle, so we will probably go in again.
And then we hit another rapid and flipped again, and then another rapid and flipped again. And when we got to the end of it and pulled ourselves out, it was looking around and seeing bits of kit floating around, seeing a paddling helmet float past us with no head in it. And there was a moment where we were missing Becky, who is one of my directors, awesome adventurer, and we just didn't know where she was. Lost her completely, and there was so many ways that she could have been killed. That was a dark moment for all of us. When we finally got everyone back together again, everyone was pretty beat up, but we were alive, and that was kind of all that mattered. The expedition, massive success. First running of the river, we did it all the way. Also, discovered a completely new population of chimps living in the Mukalaba River region, which is quite something. But
Not gonna lie, that was hardcore.
my second one would be on an expedition which was attempting to be the first to run the mighty Balim River, which is found in West Papua. So this is a river that I had first tried to walk the length of in 1997, and I've been wanting to do an expedition there to try and paddle the length of it ever since, and just trying to get it off the ground. Finally managed it.
No one's ever attempted it. There is no decent map.
And we started off and began our paddle down what is one of the most astounding rivers in the whole world, and still huge sections of it that are completely unknown, let alone unpaddled. It began with sensational stretches of whitewater.
I was expecting it to be big, but I wasn't expecting that. That's impossible.
Beautiful mountains alongside them, but then we hit our first trouble because we were in the midst of a minor uprising from local peoples rebelling against Indonesian control, and they saw us as being a potential meal ticket. There is a history in the area of people being kidnapped, held for ransom. Well, we paddled into that exact scenario. We were told that within hours, armed people were coming down out of the mountains to kidnap us, and we were going to be in big trouble. And so we literally had to call in the helis. I think it's the only time in my career that we've literally had to call in helicopters to lift us out of the river to prevent something really serious from happening. And it meant that we took out a big chunk of the river and put in a little bit downstream, which already took out of the question the possibility of us doing the first complete source to sea of the river. In the context though, I mean, that really doesn't matter at all, is it? When you're talking about people's lives and being kidnapped, merely not completing an expedition is nothing. As we continued the paddle downstream, it got really intense, and I was with a very, very strong team. These were absolute rock stars of the paddling world, and we just couldn't do it. It was impossible.
If you paddled into that, you would definitely die.
But the one moment I think that we came closest was one evening where we pulled up at a riverside, we set up our tents and started to think about making food, when out of the bushes strode 4 or 5 Papuan men, stripped to the waist, muscular, and looking very, very angry, with bows drawn, arrows at the ready, pointed at our chests.
We're hoping to meet remote and potentially hostile tribes.
They looked at us as if they were quite literally going to kill us. They assumed that we were there to prospect for minerals, and there's a really bad history of that going on in that part of Papua.
Then more Yali arrive, this time with weapons drawn.
Why would anyone think for a second that somebody would try to just kayak down a river like that for fun? They didn't get it. I think we came within a gnat's chuff of something serious happening. Very wisely, our cameraman Alexis didn't film this particular bit. I will always see in my mind those men coming out of the bushes with their bows and arrows raised, pointed towards us, and without question, we were this close to those arrows being fired.
He came striding over here with his bow drawn, and the look on his face like thunder was genuinely scary.
What happens if they turn up again in the middle of the night when we're fast asleep? This could be really bad. The call was made that we get up and go. Got into our kayaks and we got back on the river. By now it was getting dark and we were in a completely unrun Class 5 whitewater river with no idea what was ahead of us in the near dark. Now, I'm a strong paddler, but I'm not strong enough for that. Within a couple of 100 meters, I went into a hole. A hole is a recirculating feature in the river that sucks you in and won't let you go. The other guys powered on past me. It was too dark for them to even know I'd gone in. I was upside down. I was being twirled around in the water. And I mean, looking back, it was probably the dumbest thing I've ever done on expeditions. And that is a long, long list. I reached out with my paddle, used it almost like a bucket to suck me out into the water, and we were taken out into the flow and carried down to find a better camp. But oh my gosh, that was such a bad call. And without question, another day, I nearly died. My next would be on a stunning river in Kamchatka, and one of my favourite expeditions I've ever done. I think in terms of aesthetics, this was the best, the most perfect expedition I've ever seen. The Kronotsky River, from its source, at the most perfect volcano you've ever seen, like what an 8-year-old in geography class would draw if they were talking about a volcano, all the way down to the sea. It had never been done before, utterly spectacular from start to finish. There were more bears along the route of this river, and big bears, than I have ever seen before, and it was quite simply a perfect expedition. It could not have been improved. We had an electric fence put up around our tents to make sure that the bears couldn't get in and munch us while we were sound asleep in our tents. And the Whitewater itself was gorgeous. Crystal clear water filled with salmon. It does not get any better than that. But then, not surprisingly, in a team that contained world record holders, that contained world champions, and in Sal Montgomery, arguably the best female waterfall paddler in the world, I mucked up. And I muck up quite a lot when I'm in Whitewater, because I'm good. I'm really good, but, you know, I'm not of their level, not even close. And I came out of a rapid, and then I failed to make the eddy. The eddy is the portion of the river at the side where it recirculates, and so it's calm, and you can paddle into that and you can rest. But I missed it, and off I went, pinballing down the river, bouncing off rocks and boulders, boing, 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 all the way down the river. And every time I tried to make an eddy, I just failed and got swept back out into it again. And we didn't know what was ahead of us. Normally you would recce every single section. Well, I was just going down it, the whole thing, some of it backwards, without knowing what was coming next. And it could have dropped off a waterfall for all we knew. I could just remember looking back and seeing awesome Sal and James Bebbington, world champion freestyle kayaker, and Tom McClay, just the greatest expedition leader paddler I've ever worked with, Georgina Preston, ex-international paddler, all paddling after me like we were playing some crazy game of Whitewater It.
We reach a section of river full of jagged rocks. Oh, no, no! The rock forces me straight down another rapid and away from Sal and James again. Okay, relax. No!
That's it, hold there, Steve!
I'll get over there.
Get in there. Paddle, paddle, paddle.
Every ounce of strength has been drained from my arms. But Sal's not giving up on me.
Finally, I just managed to scrape myself into an eddy. That's another close call. Steve Backshall putting his teammates at risk since 1991. So the final day I nearly died, I've saved till the last because this is the one I've talked about the most, and this is the closest I've ever come to death. We were in Bhutan. We were making the first descent of what was sometimes said to be the last great undescended whitewater river in Bhutan, possibly the Himalayas, and it was beyond beautiful from minute one. As we went, we were getting ahead of ourselves to recce and check each individual rapid, but then we came to a section with high rock walls on either side, this massive gorge. We were getting towards the end of the day, everyone was exhausted, and we decided to run it blind, which was our first mistake. Daz went first, Sal went second, scoping it as they went, and then it was my turn. Already from the start, when you watch it back, you can see that I'm unsure, I don't have much confidence, I'm a bit faltering in my movements. And as I came to the drop, you're supposed to boof, thrust your hips forward at the same time as you whack in your paddle stroke and throw yourself over the edge. And I didn't commit. And as with anything in adventure sports, when you don't fully commit to something is when you have problems. You have to hit it with confidence, or you're gonna get spanked. And I got spanked.
Get it together. Get it together, Maxwell.
It's gone, we're gone, we're gone.
Dropped over the edge of this waterfall into a hole, and it caught me, dragged me back in, and started spinning me. And I was like a roller blind, just over and over and over. Tried to pull myself out of it, tried every trick in the book, failed. Finally, I pulled the ripcord, pulled my spray deck, and came out of my boat. Unfortunately, that didn't help. And now I was being dragged under the water, dragged down to the bottom, over and over again. Lungs were already choking with water. This is glacial meltwater, so it is as close to freezing as you're ever going to get. I was in for 4.5 minutes. And 4.5 minutes, when most of that is underwater, in churning white water that is that cold, hits you hard. I realised that I was drowning, that there was nothing I personally could do about it, that I was on my own, and that this was how I was going to die. I had been a parent for not very long, and I had time to process the fact that I would never get to see my kids grow up, that I would never get to see my wife again, that this was how it ended for me. All my strength was gone, I couldn't get out, and I was going to die. And that's when the impossible happened. Sal, who is my dear friend, somehow, I don't know how, battled back upstream against the current, got me a line, and she had one chance to throw that line and hit me with the throw bag. If she hadn't done that and she'd missed, I wouldn't be here today. She pulled me out and I bounced down the rapids. By then I did not care and was dragged out of the water, sobbing, wrecked, desperate.
I can honestly say that's one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. I honestly thought I was going to drown. Even with my dry suit, my life jacket on, it just kept pulling me under.
We will say someone's a lifesaver when they bring you chips or they find the TV remote. It's very rare in the modern world that someone is actually a lifesaver. Well, Sal is that to me. And everything in my life since then is because of Sal. So, awesome Sal, this one's for you. I love you. So if you want to hear more ways that I've nearly killed myself, please do like, subscribe, follow this YouTube channel. There's going to be loads more like this. You know, maybe some of it I'll actually have someone else to help me film, and I won't be doing it in my boot.